Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I wanted to make this video because I know that most likely you are a bride or a groom and you are planning your wedding and you have a lot of questions and it can be very overwhelming. So I wanted to kind of do this little intro video, just kind of helping you understand what you're getting into when it comes to planning your wedding. So I wanted to give you some feedback. I have been shooting weddings for over 16 years now and specializing in South Asian cultures and shooting weddings all over the world. And so I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to this. And so I felt really called to, make a quick YouTube video because one thing I do also notice is that we don't have a lot of time. We are usually busy with work and meetings and family and home and everything and balancing everything. So I wanted to have a resource for you for like questions to ask your photographers or cinematographers. I kind of want to go into that realm for this specific video, and then I'll make more later. But for me specifically, I have been in this game a while, so I've seen everything happen. And I'm still not surprised when I get into a wedding and I see, something crazy happen. But we're not going that route. Today, we're going to be talking about your questions when it comes to photography and video, what to expect, what information you need to have before even reaching out to photographers. That'll make things really easy for you. I just want to give you some like frequently asked questions so you kind of just have a general basis of like what to expect when it comes to photo and video for your wedding. So a couple things you really need to have down before you start reaching out is like know your details, know when your wedding is going to be, or have a rough idea. Maybe you're still looking at venues and finalizing, so you have maybe a few dates in mind. But really with photography and video, you want to know like when you're doing your wedding, because you want to see if your photographer is even available that day or that weekend or whatever it is. So having the most accurate information of like, hey, I'm thinking these dates, we're still finalizing venues. You can still get pricing and stuff if you're just wanting to like shop around. But really, if you're like committed to finding your photographer, securing them, giving a deposit, making sure that they are game to be at your wedding and that y'all have this agreement, then you want to have these details in place. So definitely have your dates, your venue, your guest count. Having the guest count is so important because then we can determine on our end how big of a crew we need. Believe it or not, we get some weddings where there are like thousands of people. So for a wedding with like 200 people versus a wedding with 1,000, I'm going to need to bring in a bigger crew for that. I'm going to need to account for all of that time and all of that editing. When you do have more people, it just seems to like have more going on, and like there's more involved with that. So definitely know your guest count. Also along with that, you want to make sure that you generally just like the photographers that you're reaching out to. You like their style, you like how they do things. There's all sorts of different styles out there. There's light and airy, there's dark and moody, there's more film-like. Just kind of depends on the vibe that you want to be able to have when it comes to your wedding and looking back at the photos, because 10 photographers can take the same picture at the same location, and each one of them can give you a totally different feel for it just based on the editing style. So make sure you definitely find someone who you vibe well with their editing. A couple other things to look out for is like reading their reviews, making sure that they're reputable. I don't know if I said that right. I think so, but just have like a good reputation and know how to do good business. On our side of it, I have seen a lot of photographers and videographers get very overwhelmed with the amount of work that comes with shooting Indian weddings. So you want to look at like, are they responsive? And if you see any red flags in the like their testimonials and stuff, people could say stuff about their communication not really being that good. These are things to look out for potentially, and not to say like, we can't, as photographers take breaks and not get back to you and that kind of stuff. We get very busy with our schedules and the editing and all that kind of stuff. But if you're starting to see these kind of red flags in their testimonials, or if you're talking to someone who's worked with them personally and can say something, that's usually an indication of like, hey, do I want to be dealing with these kind of communication issues? Because I want to be able to know what's going on with my photos, know the production time, all that kind of thing. And I think a lot of photographers don't do the best job in staying with their deadlines and stuff because the amount of work is so much and they get overwhelmed, and then you hit burnout, and that's a whole other video and subject that I'll probably talk about in a separate thing. But this is for my brides and my grooms. So you're not worried about that. You want to find someone who can communicate with you. You want to find someone that has a timely response. Like, it doesn't have to be the day of, but at least by the next business day, that makes sense. Like someone that can respond to you in a timely manner, someone that really even honors their own boundaries when it comes to communicating with clients. This is something I had to learn in my business because I made myself readily available for everyone. And I realized that burned me out. So now I kind of have set hours that I do work stuff. And then the other side of it, I'm taking care of myself and my mental health. So that's kind of the way I roll. But when you're looking out for photographers, you want to be able to ask some really good questions. And in my experience, I can remember like specific conversations with brides and grooms where they asked really great questions. And I'm like, oh man, y'all have been doing your research. And I love the questions that you're giving me. So, some really good questions to ask photographers. I mean, you can ask them about their style, what motivates them, that kind of stuff. But honestly, you're going to get a lot of that, like the standard answers of just like, we're inspired by love and we love telling a story and that kind of stuff. So for me, it's like getting to the main point and the main meat of it. So I really like when people ask me about like technical things when it comes to it, like how do I work with like a busy timeline when we have to do so much? What's my approach to that? And I know how to respond to that in my fashion with my answer. So asking how they deal with like high stress situations. These are like really a lot going on in our weddings, and you're getting pulled in every which direction. So how does your photographer handle that? How do they handle their team? These are really great questions. Another one would be like, oh yeah, okay. So one time a groom kind of asked me, what's my process with taking couple photos? Like, am I going to pose them? Am I going to guide them? Or do I just like expect them to know what to do? This is a great, great, great question. So definitely write this down. Like, ask your photographer, how much guidance do they give you with photos? Do they work off of being more documentary style and they're more like a fly on the wall and they're not going to tell you what to do? Or do they come in and kind of help guide you with prompts or poses and kind of let it flow naturally? There's so many different photographers out there that have been taught a lot of different things. So it's really important to know who you're working with and how much guidance you're going to get for them. Because if you're a couple, most likely you guys do not know how to pose, and you should not know how to pose. Like, most couples do not know how to pose, and that's okay. We want to just like accept that. But some ways to help with that is to do an engagement shoot, preferably with your wedding photographer, so of choice, so that their style, you get comfortable with them, and then it feels like a breeze the next time you work with them. It's just very effortless and beautiful. So, or you go the other route where like you hire someone and you realize like you don't really want them for the wedding. You're like, I didn't really vibe with them. I didn't really like the pictures. And now you have that openness to book someone else. So if you want to kind of take that engagement shoot time as like a testing field to like, try things out. Like maybe a photographer you love is running a special and you're like, hey, I want to try that. I want to work with you. Then book that and like try it for like the experience, and also just getting to know different photographers if you have the time and the money and the energy to. But a lot of us don't. We want to just kind of pick the one and get done with it. So definitely recommend booking an engagement shoot. But other ways to know like if photographers are really going to guide you and that kind of thing is like reading people's reviews and seeing how much people talk about that. Like, I know for me, most couples come to me and they're just like, we don't know what to do. We feel so awkward. We don't know how to pose. And that's okay. You should not know how to do all of that, but you can get that experience working with your photographer, even if you are just meeting your photographer for the first time at the wedding. I used to have this really big, you know, I guess kind of a misconception of like, oh, someone has to book me for an engagement shoot and then I'll do better pictures on the wedding. And this was kind of more in my more amateur years of shooting weddings, of just thinking, oh, they have to book me for this so they do good on the wedding. And I've been able to see where like people just hire me for the wedding and I pop up and I make magic no matter what. Like, I'm going to figure out your angles. I'm going to figure out what works for you. We're going to try different things. Some things will work, some things don't work. Sure, there is more you have to kind of do to get to that point, to like get people comfortable. I have seen that difference where people who I've done the engagement shoot with, they are just way more comfortable on the wedding day. It's like they almost just like drop all their barriers and they're just like can be themselves and be free, and you feel like you're with a friend. So it makes it really conducive to having great photos when you're comfortable around the person you're working with. Side note, this is another kind of topic I will discuss now, is like making sure you vibe with the people you're working with. Make sure you like them as people, that you get along with them. You're not feeling awkward, or you're not feeling like, oh my God, I don't want him or her to touch me, or like I feel really off and that kind of stuff. Because this is your wedding day, you have a lot of stuff, or wedding days, you have a lot of things being thrown at you. You have family dynamics, you got to do different rituals and all this kind of stuff. So like, you need to find a team that like really knows how to stay grounded and knows the chaos of everything going on around them, but knows how to come back to center and keep you centered and keep you focused. And like, I don't know how many times I've had to look at a bride or groom and be like, hey, I need you here with me right now. Like, nothing else is going on. I need the next 5 to 10 minutes with you, and I need you to just be here and drop in and be present, because by doing that, they can actually really infuse that really good energy into it, and they're not bringing in the stress and the chaos and all the other stuff of the other side. So definitely look out for that. Um, Another thing you want to look out for is like how the team works with the group dynamic with each other. If they're doing photo and video together, that tends to be a better flow when it's within one company, because there's like a cohesiveness about it. You're not separate teams and you're not like fending for yourselves. Oftentimes, when you do try to book two separate teams, if both sides don't really know how to work together, or if both sides are not as able to communicate well with each other, you run into a lot of issues where it's like every man for himself and they're just kind of doing what they want and what they know how to do. So they will get in each other's shots. They will maybe like unconsciously and like sabotage each other because they're just in it for themselves. So you really want to find a team that knows how to work together, or at least is open to it. And I get hit up all the time like, hey, I love you for video. Can I book you for just video? Or I love you for just photo and I want to book someone else for video. That's all fine. We do everything all together, and we do it separately as well. We do recommend to do it together, because when you get a better price point, when you combine the services, when you separate them, they do get more expensive. And that's just the way I like to do it in my business. And so outside of that, it's like, you want to find someone that understands your vision, and it might be two separate companies, and that is okay. You can do that. You just want to maybe um, offer like an email introduction for the teams to get to know each other, and like, hey, I want to connect you guys so like y'all can work as a team. So you're maybe making it more conducive for them working as a team. Then that might be good. I haven't had anyone do that yet, but I think that would be helpful. Of just like, hey, I picked you guys both and I love your work and I want us to work together. And it's kind of just starting with that intention of like, hey, I want us to vibe and flow on our wedding. And if you guys need to talk or meet or get coffee or something, cool, do it. And the thing with me is like, I've always really enjoyed working with other teams and meeting other photographers, because I'm like, I love networking and I love making connections and that kind of stuff. So anytime I'm working with a new photographer or videographer, I'm getting their number and I'm like, hey, you're in my list now. Like if I ever, have something where I'm in New York and I need you, you're just like right there. Or if I'm have something come up and I need someone in New York and I want to just pass it off to you, you're there too. So like I believe there's enough weddings for everyone. We can share it, we can help each other, we can make a more community style of it. And that's why I love working with others, whereas other photographers might be more competitive. They might be more in their head. Now it's a competition. Now they have to perform. And that dynamic into your wedding can really not be that supportive. So definitely look out for that. So those are just some like major questions and things you want to look out for. Aside from that, you just generally kind of want to know know your intention when you're reaching out to vendors with different photographers and stuff. Like if you're not ready to book and you're just kind of feeling things out, maybe putting that out there like, hey, we're early in the process, we're just shopping around, just want to get rough estimates. For me specifically, I like to give every inquiry a message back where I thank them, and then I give them a general rough estimate of what a package for their amount of days and times looks like with me. And if then they want to move forward and do a phone consultation, we can do that. Why I like to do this is I love transparency. I like people being direct because I don't like to run around the bush and like if we're not in each other's budget ranges anyway, then why go through all of that? That's just the way I think about it. And it's a more different switch that I've had to turn on in my brain, or which kind of turned on naturally in my brain within the last few years when I started realizing like I would be on a lot of calls with people who were not even ready to spend or like have that investment of where I'm at. And then I would feel like, well, what's the point if I'm walking you through everything, I'm giving you guidance, I'm giving you all the tips. And then a lot of times people would be on 1 to 2 hour calls with me and then they wouldn't book me. They would get the information and then book someone else, which is fine. You're going to book whoever you're going to book. But for me, I really highly value my people's time, my clients' time, and my time. And time is currency. We do not get it back. So for me, it's just being very intentional when I'm responding to clients and saying, hey, for something like this, we're in, like the $12,000 to $15,000 range. So if that's in line with what you're trying to spend, let's talk. Let's like see if this is a good fit. And then sometimes I'll talk to a client and I will start seeing some red flags. And these are some things you want to kind of tune into yourself and see if you're starting to exhibit these things. Because what I've come to realize is it's just anxiety. Like that's really the root of it. But if I'm on a call with someone and they're like asking me questions like, what are you going to do if you lose all the photos and that kind of stuff? Like that's a legit concern. And sometimes people have these, issues where they hear about with friends and they're just trying to protect. And I get that. So like, it's okay to ask these kind of questions. Don't feel bad about it. But when you start getting into the role of wanting to kind of micromanage and be like, well, I'm going to tell you what to shoot and I'm going to give you a list of every single thing and I want it this way and it has to be my way. The thing about doing wedding photo and video is a very co-creative experience. It's like your visions as a client, what you're envisioning, what you're looking at, what you're getting inspired by with the art and magic of the photographer or videographer you are working with, how they interpret your day, and then we just mix it all together and it's this beautiful thing. But if we can't let the artist kind of do their thing, we can give guidance, we can give tips, we can give inspo, we can do all of that. But if we start getting on this thing of like trying to control them, usually when I start feeling that type of energy, I start understanding like, okay, this person has anxiety or some form of it, and I want to address that. And I do in a loving and kind way where I say, hey, I totally understand where you're coming from with all these concerns, but I have protective measures. We shoot on multiple cameras. I have been doing this so long that you have to just let go. And that can be very hard. And I understand, being a bride, it's all this pressure on this day. It has to be perfect. But one, like, we're doing this together, and I want you to know that I'm going to do everything in my power to help you through this. I'm going to, educate you on different things. I'm going to help you when you get stressed, but we're going to do this together as a team. So, those are just a few things you just really want to look out for. Some really great questions to ask your photographers and videographers. Some last minute ones I'll give you before I wrap up, because I want to make these videos a little bit shorter and like to the point. So, this one's just going to be that topic, and I can come on and do some more later when I feel inspired. But some other really good questions is turnaround time. What does the turnaround time look like for photos and video? What is required on their end to do to make that timeline and the deadlines come together? So, like if they need to pick out songs, that kind of stuff. Two, what is their process for making the videos? Like, how do they go about that? Do they pick out the songs? Do you pick out the songs? What's the best way to do that? What's their process? Three could be like in terms of giving photo, video, no, photo in terms of giving photo inspiration. Is that allowed? Can they give you reference photos for pictures they like? How creative can they be in this process? Can they really just like, give you the photos and expect to get everything, or how does that work? And each person will have their answer for that. Another really good question is, how big of a crew do they bring? And like how they structure it, like what team covers what. It's a really, really helpful question. And number five, I'll leave this as the last one, is just like, how do we handle, when situations come up at the wedding day? Like if we're not able to do a full-blown couple shoot, or there's something that happens and our time gets cut, how are we approaching that to be more efficient? Do we have backup plans when it comes to the couple shoot? Like say, for instance, if, the getting ready takes too long, there's something that happens and we don't get that time, would we plan to do it again? Like just really wanting to come back to like, hey, remember that at the end of the day, this union, this marriage, this wedding, these people coming together with their families and their friends, ultimately at the root of it, it comes to the couple, the man and the wife, or the wife and the wife, or the man and the man. Whatever you're doing, that's you. That's cool. Whatever it is, um, it's about the union of two souls coming together, and like, how are we really going to preserve that in the wedding? Like, what is the goal of that photographer? How will they do that their best? And I hope that this video was really informative and helped you through these things. I will be popping on with more ideas because I'm just getting a lot of different downloads of like videos to share with you guys and keep on my page. So, when you are exploring wedding photographers and wedding videographers, you know what to look out for, some really key questions. And now you can feel a little bit more empowered when it comes to reaching out to the various beautiful, amazing options that are out there, because there are so many amazing photographers, and we're just here to pair you with the right ones that match with you and your vibe. So thanks for tuning in. I will see you on the next one.